Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order and welcome you to the regular meeting of the Milwaukie Planning Commission. Agendas and additional copies of staff reports are available on the table in the hall. If you have not picked up an agenda, please do so. It contains important information about the process. If you wish to be included in the mailing list for a decision, please add your name and contact information to the sign-up list located on the table in the hallway. If you wish to testify, please fill out a yellow comment card. We will follow the basic format listed on the back of the agenda. It includes all of the hearing procedure steps. We may vary from the process based on the specific circumstances of each hearing. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes, which we do not have, so we'll skip that. Informational items. Are there informational items from staff?
I have two. Last time I said that the appreciation dinner wouldn't be during spring break. In fact, it is. I think you guys must have gotten your invitations by now, but it was the 29th, I believe. So please RSVP if you haven't already. The other item is on March 20th, the council will be holding a work session on the Monroe Street Neighborhood Greenway. And this is a concept plan that was approved by the council a couple of years ago, had come up through the Planning Commission, and it involves a series of improvements for Monroe Street that would make it much more bicycle and pedestrian friendly. There was a recent study done that looked at the impacts of some of the planned diversions, and the report that came back said that if we followed through with the diverters, that there would be need for some additional improvements, such as at least one or two additional signals on Harrison. So this presents some other alternatives on how to approach Monroe. I believe there's going to be public testimony allowed. But anyway, if you're interested in that topic, you might want to tune in or come down for the meeting.
Thank you.
Just may I ask?
Yeah.
Does that mean that the findings of the report just mention that if you did nothing on Harrison for diversion, did they actually speak to, because I believe there's two other sites of diverters on that treatment? I haven't
read the report yet.
Oh, okay. I'm just curious. Okay, well, we'll get to see it. So.
Chuck Eaton put it together.
I'll bother him.
I have to admit, I haven't read it.
Okay,
but
thank you.
I've read a summary is all.
Okay.
So I don't know specifically what those are, but I believe it is in the council report that's been published.
Oh, it's already,
now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. This is audience participation. This is an opportunity to comment on items not on tonight's agenda. If you wish to comment on an item that is on the agenda, there will be time for comments after the presentation. Does anyone wish to comment on an item that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay. The next agenda item is public hearing on file CSU 2017-007 and VR-2017-012. The public hearing on files CSU 2017-007 and VR-2017-012 is called to order. The purpose of this hearing is to consider application numbers, which I've just read. The purpose of this application is to request a community service use and variance on the property located at 2301 Willard Street. The applicant has the burden of proving that the application is consistent with the City of Milwaukee's zoning, subdivision ordinance, comprehensive plan, and any applicable municipal code provision. The applicant has the burden of proving that the proposal conforms with all of the city's applicable criteria. I now ask staff to cite the zoning ordinance sections where the criteria can be found.
Sure. From the Milwaukee Municipal Code, we're looking at sections 19.1006 for type 3 review, section 19.904 community service uses, chapter 19.302 medium and high density residential zones, including the R2 zone, chapter 19.500 supplementary development regulations, chapter 19.600 off-street parking and loading, chapter 19.700 public facility improvements, section 19.911 variances, and title 12 streets, sidewalks, and public places.
All testimony and evidence must be directed toward the applicable substantive criteria. Failure to address a criterion or raise an issue with sufficient detail to allow the Planning Commission an adequate opportunity to respond to each issue precludes appeal to the City Council based on that issue. Failure to raise constitutional or other issues related to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient detail to allow a response precludes an action for damages in circuit court. Any party with standing may appeal the decision of the Planning Commission to the City Council. Persons with standing are those who submit written comments or testify in person or sign the Planning Commission attendance sign-up sheet in the hallway. Conduct of hearing. I will recognize those persons who have completed the testimony cards and given them to me. When you come to the podium, please state your name and address for the record so they may be entered into the minutes. If you are here to testify, please remember to confine your remarks to the application and the relevant criteria and to avoid repetition and irrelevant information. If additional documents or evidence are provided by any party, the Commission may, if requested, allow a continuance or leave the record open to allow the parties a reasonable opportunity to respond. Any such continuance or extension shall be subject to the limitations of the 120-day rule unless the continuance or extension is requested or agreed to by the applicant. Conflicts of interest and site visits. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to abstain from this hearing?
No.
Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to declare an actual or potential conflict of interest? No. Does any member of the Planning Commission wish to report on any ex parte contacts?
No.
Will any commissioner who has visited the site prior to this hearing please raise their hand? Did any of those commissioners who visited the site speak to anyone at the site or note anything different from what is indicated in the staff report for this application? No. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the participation of any member of the Planning Commission? Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission to hear this matter? Let's proceed to the staff report presentation.
All right, good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Are you in a good spot? Yeah. Adam? Okay, proceed. My name is Brett Kelver. I'm Associate Planner with the City, and I will be walking you through the staff report this evening. This is the second part of the procedure that you started earlier this year with the request to delete the high school from the list of historic properties. That was something that needed to happen in order for this part of the project, kind of the main part of the project to happen. So this is the next part of that story. Just to go over the site real quickly, it is almost a 15-acre campus. It's the one high school that's within the city limits, downtown, very close to the light rail station, not too many blocks from where we are right now. And there's a lot packed in on the site here. I'll just point out a few of the features, if I can. We obviously have the athletic track and the football field. There's a softball field as well. Here's Willard Street, which kind of converts into 23rd Avenue to meet Lake Road. There's a tennis court facility that's actually now considered part of the whole property. And there's a lot of past history of past tax lots, and things have been consolidated over time. So now there's just one giant tax lot that interestingly crosses the street to include the tennis courts. We have the main classroom building, which is the building that had the historic designation on it. This is the newer Performing Arts Center. There's a parking lot here in the southwest corner of the site. The Commons building, which has some connection to the classroom building. Then there's the gymnasium facility, the grandstand. Another parking lot here, accessible off of Washington Street. So there is some off-street parking on the high school site, but they also have shared parking agreements with two of the nearby churches. So there's a shared parking agreement with St. John the Baptist Catholic Church here to the north across Washington Street, and there's also a shared parking agreement to use some of the spaces at St. Stephen's Serbian Church here at 27th and Willard. The zoning for the site is also a little mixed. It's mostly residential R2, the bulk of the campus. You can see kind of the shading is R2. There is a small portion of the back end of the Performing Arts Center that's caught in our downtown mixed-use zone, and then some of this mixed kind of commercial or business office residential. The R1B zone encompasses a portion of the parking lot and just a little bit of this part of the campus here as well. But overall, it's a residentially zoned site, and most of the activity that's going to be happening with this proposed renovation and remodeling is focused in the R2 area. The applicants have a full presentation as well, so I'll let them talk about more of the details of some of the things that'll be happening, but just a quick overview, kind of the centerpiece of the project is demolition of the existing classroom building and replacement of it more or less in the same spot with a new classroom building that will be connected with the Commons building. There is some expansion. There'll be a little bit more floor area involved, but more or less it's a similar footprint. They're also going to be making a few reconfigurations in the southwestern parking lot and replacing the softball field that's in the southeast corner of the site with a new parking lot. One of the variants that you're considering tonight involves parking. There's a request by the district to not have to provide designated carpool or van pool parking spaces, and we can talk a little bit more about that later. But overall, the proposal with the new parking lot is going to be adding parking, almost 75 spaces to the site. Some of the other smaller improvements include some remodeling to the Commons building. And again, the applicant has some nice images. I think they can show you kind of the idea for the creating and really enhancing the main entry to the whole campus, to the main building entrance of the new building. And a key part of the project, it's expected to take about 2 years, I believe. And again, the applicant can speak more to specific parts of the timeline, but still need to have school there. So what's going to happen is there will be modular classrooms placed on the football field, on the athletic field, and the students will move into those for the start, hopefully the start of the coming school year. So that's a quick overview, and here on the map, just to recap quickly, you can see the numbers where the different things are happening. Number one, the main building being replaced. Number two is here, a little bit of remodeling for the Commons building. Number three, some reconfiguration of the southwestern parking area, but more or less it will be kind of exactly in the same spot and serving the same function. Number four is kind of the establishment of kind of a bus pull-out area for some bus loading and unloading here. Number five is the replacement of the softball field with a new parking lot that'll be accessed through a single driveway from Willard. And then number six is the spot where the modular classrooms will be on the athletic field for the duration of the project. Most of you are familiar with the site and kind of the area. Just a couple of photos for reference. These are different views of the Willard Street. This is more or less standing at the intersection with 25th Avenue, looking to the west. This is the main classroom building. Here's a portion of where the softball field is. Here's more or less standing close to the intersection of 23rd and Lake, looking again towards, this is kind of towards the northeast, towards the classroom building. Here's the entrance to the southwest parking lot. Down here in this corner, this is from the sidewalks in front of the tennis courts, looking towards the north across Willard Street. You can see the adjacent, some apartment buildings and other residential development here. And then here in this corner, this is looking, again, on Willard Street, looking west alongside the classroom building. This is where there's currently a parking area, and there's going to be kind of within both the property and I think it's in the right-of-way will be the area where the bus pull-out area is. And just to say a couple things, and I'll ask Alex from our engineering department to correct me if I run off here, but I just wanted to say a couple things about, there are going to be a lot of street improvements with the project, most of them focused on Willard Street. Northwest Housing Alternatives is also redeveloping their site, so they're going to be doing some street improvements kind of on their side, on the south side of Willard. Let's see, on Willard Street, as I mentioned, there'll be the bus pull-out area, and right adjacent to that will be about a 10 or 10 and a half foot wide sidewalk, kind of between where the buses pull up and the new building. And then if you were walking on the north side of Willard from the bus pull-out area heading east, that sidewalk will continue to be curb tight. I think it narrows down a little bit once you get beyond the bus pull-out area. And then to make the pedestrian connection up to 27th, there will be a curb tight sidewalk as well from the edge of the school property on up to 27th. So there's a little bit of off-site improvement. But as I understand, there are no changes as part of this project to the south side of Willard. I think NHA, the Northwest Housing Alternatives, is doing a lot of that. Some of the landscaping that will be on the north side will mostly be on the school property itself. And then I guess one thing to say is that one element that is a part, I think, of the district's longer-term plan for the site, but is not part of this proposal and will be considered later, is there's a proposal to redevelop the tennis court site for additional parking. That's not part of this proposal, and so what will be required on that segment of 25th Avenue between Willard Street and the properties to the south will simply be 5-foot sidewalks on both sides of the street with some landscape buffer, like a 4-foot landscape buffer, and then some kind of a design for a turnaround or cul-de-sac at the bottom of the street. And then I guess one other area to point out is at that intersection of 23rd and Lake Road, it's important to make some pedestrian connections there as well. And on 23rd, there will be I think it's about a 5-foot setback sidewalk with a 3 to 4 foot landscape buffer leading down to the corner, and then around the corner on Lake Road, we'll be getting a curb tight sidewalk and a bike lane. And I think that the engineering department has some flexibility to work around some of the mature trees that are there, so that when we get into the final design, if there's some concern about impact to some of the roots of some of those mature evergreen trees, there's an opportunity to maybe meander the sidewalk. And then there's a final, there'll be a connection. Let me just back up a little bit here if I can get this to go. Also be making a connection. This is Adams Street, and we'll be getting a pedestrian connection from Adams Street up to 23rd Avenue here. There'll be a little bit of dedication of right-of-way and establishment of a stairway and pedestrian connection. So there'll be several enhanced pedestrian connections as part of the project. Just for reference, we've already read through the list of the criteria that are applicable. I guess some of the key ones that we'll encourage you to focus on tonight are the approval criteria for community service uses. This is a major modification to the existing approval that the school has to operate on that location, and so there are a number of different criteria that the applicant has to meet. And I think one of the ones that we'll probably focus on, or that I imagine some of your discussion and some of the public comments will focus on, will be on especially letter D, about talking about the impacts of the new school facility versus some of the benefits that'll be bringing in, both some permanent impacts and benefits versus the temporary ones. And then the other item being the variance request related to carpool, van pool parking, and we'll talk a little bit about the impacts related to that and parking in general. But these are for reference if it's helpful at some point to come back to these approval criteria. In the staff report, we identified a couple of key issues related to essentially parking, landscaping, and the consideration of impacts of the project, both long-term and also during the construction window. And specifically, we focused with respect to the impacts on access. How would access be maintained to different portions of the site during the construction, and will there be any long-term impacts to access once it's finished? So just looking at the parking issue, we just have a couple of, and these things are related in the staff report and also in the findings, but just to go over the code has a minimum prescription for a school with this capacity. It's looking for 515 off-street parking spaces. And the school, because it's so close to light rail, qualifies for a reduction of up to 25%. And so the number that the school is needing to provide is 386. Currently, the school provides far less than that, 259. And that's with some of the shared parking agreements. And we've addressed this issue in the past with respect to the ball fields at Lake Road and in the 2007 application that we looked at when the athletic field was upgraded. As I noted before, they're proposing to add with that one parking lot in the southeast and some reconfigurations. They'll be adding almost 75 spaces. That'll bring the number up to 333, which is a lot closer to the number that they're supposed to be hitting. But we are considering the request to not have to designate carpool parking. And there's some argument that can be made that with the some of the other facilities that are provided, bicycle parking access to max, and also with the condition that staff is proposing, which is kind of reinvigorate the school's transportation demand management program, which would encourage the school leadership to focus on ways to manage actively the parking, find ways to reduce trips, to have people share trips. That was something that came out of some of the earlier land use decisions, and we wanted to encourage that to be a part of what happens on the site moving forward. So that's one of the key conditions that we're recommending with respect to the parking issue. With respect to landscaping, I think the largest impact would be, or concern would be, to both some of the landscaping features that'll be present along the Willard Street frontage, but also, I think more importantly, what kind of buffering and screening is there along the eastern boundary of the site, particularly where there's going to be a new parking lot established where there's currently a softball field. And what we understood from past discussions was, interestingly, when we looked at the potential impacts of the field lights when they were being approved, there was a variance requested for them to be as tall as they are. And so we looked at screening and shading issues for the light itself. But the feedback that was presented, as I remembered in the public hearing then, was that the adjacent residents actually still wanted to have some visual access to the site to be able to see what was happening on the field. So that's why I think when that might have been a similar concern or consideration for the softball field, but replacing the softball field with a parking lot obviously presents a different kind of activity happening on that part of the site. And so the parking code does have requirements for landscaping along the perimeters of parking areas, and we think those will be sufficient to provide the kind of screening that's needed there. There's concern about the proximity of a proposed new garbage and recycling facility that is on that eastern side of the parking lot, and so the suggestion that's put forward in the recommended conditions was to have the applicant look at either trying to relocate that to a different portion of the site, or if that wasn't practical, to very specifically focus on screening that with especially some landscaping to reduce the impacts of that. It was also pointed out that with some of the public comments received from the Neighborhood District Association, that there's some prevalent invasive plants that have gotten established along the existing eastern landscaping area, and so the recommendation was to make sure that removal of those invasives is part of the landscaping plan for the school. And then the questions for the two aspects of the access during construction and then after construction. I think the applicant is prepared tonight to address some of the points where we suggested maybe there's a need for a little bit more information to understand exactly what the plan and program is for the interim part with respect to how are students going to access the modular classroom portion of the site, where will pickups and drop-offs happen, where will the buses be, where will parents drop folks off, will there be impacts to how people arrive to the site, either as pedestrians or on bicycles. So I think that some of what you'll hear from the applicant will address some of those questions and concerns. And again, we think that that's probably going to be a point of some discussion by you. And then with respect to the question of how do things work when everything's done, I think the general sense is that the way the site is laid out, and with some of the, especially with the street improvements that we're going to get, especially on the Willard Street frontage, the new connection from 21st along Adams up to 23rd, that there will be an improved and sufficient system for access to the site, especially for pedestrian and bike folks. And I think the engineering department has looked at the proposed bus pickup drop-off area and is comfortable with that and how that would function, especially with the requirement to improve the sidewalk, making the final connection from the school property up to 27th Avenue along Willard Street. Just a quick graphic to illustrate some of the areas where things will be happening. And again, I think the applicant team has some nice images that'll show this a little better, but part of the proposal includes kind of a really nice pedestrian access to the main entry of the building, kind of in front of where it'll be in this area where the number 2 is. That's kind of going to be the focus of the intention, drawing people into the main portion of the building. And again, I think you can look to some of the images they'll provide for a little more explanation about how that'll work. These 2 number 3s represent some existing walkways that run alongside the Performing Arts Center down to 21st Avenue. They're secured by gates. They allow students to get out pretty easily, but the idea with trying to promote a little more campus security is that they're locked coming back through. So there are pedestrian connections that work for the goals the school is trying to achieve with respect to security. And then here, this number 4 is showing the area where we're looking to get a new stairway and pedestrian connection so that people can get from Adams Street up to 23rd Avenue. And then right now, and I believe in the future as well, 23rd Avenue serves as a point for some pickup and drop off that allows people to get access to this portion of the campus. So I'll wrap up just by saying that our recommendation is for approval with the findings as we've prepared them and the conditions that we presented to you. And in terms of the options that you have, I know the applicant is eager to move through this process so that they can continue with the tight timeline that they have with respect to getting to the end of the school year and being able to start. Continuing the hearing is an option with respect to the 120-day clock, even if it's not the applicant preference. But we think that if it needed, we can maybe take a recess if there are some particular things that we need to address and come up with some findings depending on how your discussion goes. But you have kind of the standard options of approving what we've presented to you, making some modifications to those findings and conditions. If you need to continue the hearing, that's an option with the timeline. Or if you decide that the application doesn't meet the criteria, we need to deny it, we'll need to make some revised findings for that, but that's an option as well. So with that, I'd ask if you have any questions before you hear from the applicant team.
Any questions for Brett?
Yeah, Brett, regarding, and I'm going to go by the acronym of Transportation Demand Management because it's really, I hate saying that all the time.
Okay.
TDM.
TDM.
So in the staff report, there's mention that the previous TDM plan was really not followed upon. Is there any context to that in terms of then, well, if we're developing a new one, what will be the city and schools working relationship to administer and monitor the TDM program or plan?
Yeah, good question. I think that the recommendation, as we've proposed it in the conditions, is to have a revised TDM plan brought back to you for kind of an initial review to consider the structure, its robustness, whatnot, including, I guess, a proposal or suggestion for on what timelines and how the plan would be updated and monitored. I think that if we're able to get a structure in place that seems workable, then it might be reasonable to figure that it's an annual or every other year kind of review might be able to be conducted by the planning director to identify how things are working or not. I think this probably falls into the category of some similar things like maintenance or monitoring of natural resource mitigation plantings that I think there's probably a little bit of onus on the planning department to figure out how to structure and set reminders so that we can check in with the school district on a regular basis to get that report.
Thank you.
Outlook helps.
Yeah.
Outlook reminders.
Great, thanks.
Could you clarify the stormwater requirements? In the stormwater report, the applicant, does say that, at a minimum, the city of Milwaukie requires that the post-development runoff rate does not exceed the pre-development runoff rate. And I would like to have you clarify pre-development as it applies to this application.
I'm going to stall for a second while I warm up Alex in the bullpen, or maybe ask him to come up. I don't, and I'll start by speculating and let him correct me as a way of doing that I don't think we're talking about pre-development on this site. Probably is going all the way back to Lewis and Clark times, but that would be my first guess, but I don't know how we're looking at that.
Generally, we do try to follow that.
Sorry, say who you are.
Alex Roller, Engineering Tech, City of Milwaukee. We do try to follow that. I don't remember, it's been a while since I looked at the stormwater report for this. I think the only thing they're proposing is the parking lot in the southwest, right?
Southeast is new. The southeast part of the site.
They're modifying the southwest as well,
right.
I think, with chambers. That is something that we will require them to follow, is the pre-development as Lewis and Clark is generally what we follow.
So would that apply to the entire site in this case because it's a major modification of the CSU, or would it only apply to the new parking lot areas?
It would only be the new.
Okay.
It would be the new building roof and then the new parking, new impervious. Yeah.
And does the application address that sufficiently as far as you guys are concerned?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a question about the additional 42 peak hour trips that are anticipated to be generated. Is that because of additional staff? Because the student enrollment won't change. So talk to me a little bit about the increase in those numbers, because I'm not an expert on how those are generated, so appreciate that.
Yeah, that's based purely on the building square footage.
Okay.
Doesn't matter how it's going to be used. It's high school is the use, and I think it might end up being a little less than that. I've been communicating with their engineers about the actual final building square footage, but that's all it's based on, is just the square footage.
Okay.
So it's similar to what we talked about with the Round Middle School project, where they weren't proposing to change the enrollment any, but they were adding 12,000 square feet to the building, so it affected our technical count of how many trips you could expect to be generated.
Okay.
Which is a little different than how we calculate parking,
Right.
which in this
Right.
case is based on students and teachers.
Right. Any other questions for staff?
Thank you.
Okay, I do have another clarification. So the existing access way on Washington Street is currently not conforming to the access way spacing for a collector. However, the proposed development is not modifying this access way, therefore it is consistent. So even though it's not conforming now, but they're not required to make it conforming in this application. Is that
Right.
right?
Correct, yeah, the spacing requirement for driveways onto a collector is 600 feet from the nearest intersection. So that would be 23rd, which is, I don't know, 200 feet away to the west. If they were modifying that, we would look at options to change it, but there is allowances with modification to access spacing that the engineering director can determine that. I think some of these numbers are more applicable to like highways type spacing is how they were originally drafted. And we understand that they don't entirely, make sense sometimes.
Yeah.
But
In general, the way we approach non-conforming situations is if someone's not touching that, it doesn't trigger bringing them into conformance in general.
Right.
So, there's some other variations on that, of course, but in most cases, that's the way we approach it.
Okay. Thank you. No? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Have we received any correspondence on this matter other than those items included in the meeting packet?
No.
Okay. Applicant testimony. Comments from the applicant or their representative?
Good evening, Chair Travis and members of the Planning Commission. For the record, my name is Andrew Tull with 3J Consulting. My address is 5075 Southwest Griffith Parkway, Suite 150 in Beaverton, Oregon, 97005. Matt, you want to just take a moment?
Sure. Hi, thank you for having us tonight. Matt Jacoby, I'm an architect at Brick Architecture in Portland. Our address 1233 Northwest Northrop, Suite 100, Portland, 97209.
We are so excited to be here tonight to talk about the new Milwaukie High School. Here with us tonight is David Hobbs, the Capital Project Manager with the North Clackamas School District. Also here is Stephen Nicholas with Heary Project Management, and Ian Reynolds, also from Brick Architecture. Want to thank you for your time tonight. Also, thanks staff. They've been great to work with, as with any of these projects that we'll be bringing forward and have brought forward. And they've done a great job in prepping this application for consideration by you tonight. As I mentioned before, and as Brett did a great job of giving an overview for, this is about a new high school for the city of Milwaukie. And Milwaukie hasn't had a new high school for quite a few years, especially in this downtown location. High schools in general are iconic buildings, representative of the overall community. The schools are often considered to be central to the success of an overall community, and we are thrilled to be a part of this project and are going to be very happy to see it go into construction if approved. This is all part of the district's 2016 bond package, which the voters passed, enabling the district to use $433 million to provide new schools and new facilities throughout the entire district. I think a couple of things that are going to be shown to you tonight will showcase the incredible design and amenities which are going to be included in this high school, and we'll also touch on how some of the aspects of the school's history will be incorporated into the new building. So without further ado, I want to invite Matt to go through the PowerPoint that we've prepared and show you this design.
Excellent. We're going to just dive right into this. I know there's a few new images that you haven't seen, but there's a few that you've already seen in the packet. And then we also have a 3D fly-through of the site that our engineers did for us. So I want to show that to you as well. It just gives an overall glimpse of kind of the whole development when the project's done. But I'm just going to go through here. So let's see. So I want to dive right into, this is what we're calling kind of a site circulation plan, and what you're seeing is actually during construction phase. you're seeing Mod City, and I think I'm just going to stand up. This is going to be much
You need to,
Can I stand up?
you
I
need a
can't stand up.
microphone if you're going to stand up.
Okay, I'll use the pointer. Or if this, Brett, will this
Yeah,
work?
just keep swiping it. Yeah, go to the right and it'll finally
I
come up. There
find
we go.
there we go. Okay, so Mod City, which is actually happening starting this spring. These are the modular units on the football field. Skanska, our general contractor, is actually going to start mobilizing this week to create what we're calling our construction staging area. The modulars will actually come in through that way, and then all that work is going to be happening this spring and summer. Well, you're seeing this blue line. This is showing their construction fencing, which is a permanent temporary, but that is a safety fence, construction fence with access points for contractors to get in and out. But basically, we're saying no students, no public in that entire area. This area will happen soon, where we're going to take over the softball field this summer when students are gone, school is over, literally the next day or two. Then the demo and abatement of the old boiler building and the old school that fits underneath here, that will be happening this summer. So you're seeing the footprint in the new school, and this is kind of a glimpse of the next 2 years, that basically that entire zone is no students, no public. And Skanska, our contractor, is working on further safety. They have to provide safety and security plans, logistics plans, and be doing outreach to the neighbors, and they're going to be a very good neighbor. But lots of activity happening in this entire zone. The green lines are to represent student and public circulation flows kind of in and out of the campus. Maybe we'll just start with Mod City. Those green lines are saying basically we have ramps and decks, so all the units are ADA accessible, but those students are able to really get anywhere on campus except in this, the blue zone over here. So they can leave Mod City. They'll be having lunch, and counseling admin is still in the commons. The cafeteria, food service is still in the commons. So there's multiple ways to get through and in. There's an ADA ramp that sits right here. None of that is being touched. You can come out of Mod City, you can get in the gym, you come through here, you can walk either side, kind of come around the commons, you can come through the commons. Full access to either the north and the south of performing arts, those walkways that lead you down to the orange line. There's multiple ways down and around. There's 2 bus stops here to the south. There's bus stops up on Washington. Basically, we're trying to say, yes, it's a huge construction zone, but the students we're providing this really secure fence, and basically they can go everywhere else. This front parking lot gets improved, but that will probably be a summer project. So we're just making it better, and it won't be happening during the school year. Same, just minor improvements to that parking lot to the north. That'll just be a summer project. The big change is that the buses can't be here because this is construction fencing basically kind of to the sidewalk. Students access, you'll still be able to use a sidewalk, but then there'll be a construction fence. So buses during construction get moved up to 23rd and where that roundabout is. So buses will queue here and then exit on Washington. There's really no other place for the buses to fit. I mean, we talked about could they stay on Willard, and just it's too much construction, and the students would have to kind of work their way around it, versus now coming from Mod City, coming from the Commons, Performing Arts, they can get to this area accessible, very easily. Student or a parent drop off and pickup can still happen in this lot. Actually, they won't be competing against the buses. So in some ways, it's probably a better condition. Right now, it's a little crazy, buses and parents all kind of fighting for that space. So I'm talking fast. I mean, we've been spending, months and months and months on this. This is a very quick overview. I want to just highlight, that's that NHA project that we highlighted. We know that's slated, I think, to start this spring as well. And there's going to be coordination with Skanska and them in terms of utilities and all sorts of stuff that's happening in between. Okay. Any questions, or should we just go through it and then do questions? Okay. There's just a little glimpse of Mod City. All of these units are all brand new. They're all being built. The first ones show up end of March. Basically, it's a whole campus. I mean, every one of their classrooms we're taking out. So we have to replace classrooms. Science are these green ones. The Health and Wellness Center, special education, these are restroom units. This one on the corner is basically kind of a little admin building for security and resource officers and other staff. We have workrooms. We have IDF, computer IT rooms. Basically, it's the whole campus that we're recreating except for food service. So a major project, and that's going to start, like I said, here in the next couple weeks. I really didn't want to spend a lot of time on the floor plans, but I could really quickly just say that, new building, 3 stories, commons, gets renovated. We're so excited about this project. Milwaukee's going to get a brand new state-of-the-art high school that's seismically meet all the current seismic codes. It's going to have all the latest technology, improved. Even the one thing, if we did anything, is to have a secure vestibule that everyone who comes to the school has to check into this before they can walk into the school. I'll say down here to the south, we're calling the side door, front door, bus drop-off. These exterior doors, all of them, these 2 locations will be secured where they will be open for only, say, a half an hour, and then they electronically close. So if you're a guest, if you're a visitor, you have to come in this set of doors. You can't even get into the school. You have to check in with the administration reception area, and then maybe you just wait here for your student to come. Maybe you don't even have to go into the school. There'll be a nice waiting area. If you do have to go, or maybe you're using the community room or some other event, you'll be given a visitor badge and actually be buzzed through those set of doors. So if we only did that and made this a very safe place that everybody who comes feels like no one can just walk in this school, I think we've done a great thing. But that's just one thing. We've done, creating basically an entire new school. And another thing is that right now the commons in the old building are really disconnected. There's a sky bridge on the 2nd floor. It kind of works, it kind of doesn't. But we are literally connecting the 2 buildings, providing 2 holes through the building that will have fire-rated doors that will shut in case of emergency. But basically we're calling this whole thing kind of the knuckle here, and taking a new school and connecting it to a common, so it'll all basically feel like one school. You'll be able to walk seamlessly between on 2 different levels. And we're going to, our renovation work in the commons will match color schemes, flooring, some of the details. The new stairwell we're going to add will match what we're doing in the new school. We're not redoing the entire commons, but we're giving it a facelift, and it's going to feel like it's connected. I think it will dramatically change the whole campus when you're having this hub of a building and then a new building next to it. So we're going to do a lot of cool architectural things to make those buildings mesh. It's just a little enlarged plan of the first floor, science, special ed, all the administration, counseling. I didn't really want to get into all the details. I will say 2nd floor has a brand new media center, a library that overlooks the lobby, going to be a 2-story volume space. It's one of the focal points of the school, is this media center, as well as a maker space where that is going to be all the kind of the latest technology, plug and play. They're going to work with industry partners to get, 3D printers, laser cutters, whatever it is. It's just going to be a plug and play room that they can bring things in and have kids actually make stuff, which is going to be really exciting. We put it in a very prominent location. It's going to be fantastic. 3rd floor, this is interesting that the 3-story building wraps around this, the north wing, south wing. This north wing only has 2 floors because we actually were able to meet the program. And so this is a little trick that we're doing, is that we're just oversizing the footings, the concrete footings and the columns, just a little bit, that they could add a 3rd floor in the future. And this will be, the structure will be flat. You'd pull off this mechanical yard and a chiller unit, and basically you can build, 8 classrooms, maybe 10 classrooms, and not have to increase the footprint of the school. It may never happen, but in 10 years from now, if they need more students, we've designed it so they can build it with minimal impact to the campus. They wouldn't have to lose parking. They wouldn't have to lose the courtyard. We can build on top of that. So that's a really cool thing that we're doing. These are just some images. Again, we hate to show color. Color makes them a little more attractive, but we don't know exactly what the color of the brick and the metal panel and the windows, and this is a little more red when we know it's actually maroon, but these were just done. They're actually a little bit old, and we're working on some new ones, but this is just to show what this new 3-story building could look like. This is the view from that front parking lot. The commons is over in the distance. It's going to be a very modern school. It's going to be contemporary, but it's going to have beautiful materials. It's going to have school colors. It's going to be welcoming. It's going to be inviting. It's going to be low maintenance. We're meeting all the district standards. It's going to be an incredible brand new school. This one just zooms in. This is where we talked about, this is where one of the giant cedars lives. And we talked about maybe creating some kind of a little memorial to that tree, or some kind of plaque where that's where actually the tree was, and you can actually touch it and walk over it. We might do something there. But basically we can't save that tree. We have looked at all different ways to do it. It blocks the front entry. We have 8 feet of grade change from here down to when they built the commons. There's like 8 feet of difference. And so challenging, but we've made it work, because when you walk in here, then we're actually going to align line with the commons, and then you come up 8 feet, and then the rest of the building is up where it needs to be. We're not sinking it down in a hole. So lots of grade challenges, but yet I think we've really embraced them and actually really made it cool, because now the lobby actually has this a stairwell, a place to sit, place to hang out, and then we're building the school where it needs to be up at this level. So that one tree is going to go away. We're going to salvage some of that lumber. We can donate it. We can do benches with it. We've talked about creating different artwork from it. I mean, it's going to be put to good use. We're sad to see it go. We love trees too. We're going to try to save some, but that one just can't stay. And what we're also trying to do is we're going to give the commons a little bit of a facelift with new paint, maybe some new skin on part of it, metal panels that match some over here. The Health and Wellness Center eventually moves, so it'll have a new sign, a welcoming entrance. We're going to do our best we can without rebuilding this to make it look like it matches the new building. It's still an old building built in the 90s. It's kind of ugly on the outside, but again, we've got some tricks up our sleeve that we can do. We can work magic with signage and paint and some other things to give that thing a real facelift. It needs it. It's one color of beige, and it's not a great beige. It's just boring, and I say that because I've also heard that from the superintendent and others. I mean, it's just kind of an ugly building. It's just not very attractive, and we're going to have this beautiful building next to it. So we're going to do the best we can. Give that a facelift. So again, lots more to talk about here, but here's that secure vestibule right here. So everybody in there is here. Those doors are only open limited time, but you can always get out. They're always open from the inside. So really quick, this is this historical feature study. We realized that this is a great old school, built in 1925. All that history. It has been remodeled so many times. The original school, you can't even really tell where it is. In some ways, it's been added on to every decade almost. The original front door, that's all changed. So those original grand steps don't exist anymore. The 1925 sign that sits up there, we found out that's not original. There's not much original left. We've walked this building so many times that we can't really find many things that are still there from the original construction. All the windows have been replaced, doors have been replaced, right? It's been added on to and remodeled. So, but there are a few things we're going to do. So this is just an overall plan. Some of what we want to do is actually inside the building is creating some history walls, some graphics, some displays, really do a nice job of taking some of those, a few of those elements and celebrating and honoring the history of the building. So again, lots to talk about, but here's one idea. So the only real original woodwork we can find is this, what we call the south entry, and you're actually looking at the inside. The doors have been replaced, but that trim and those windows are actually original, and it sits right in there. That's kind of the most original entrance, and that's not even the main entrance. That's on the south, and these are the original 1925 drawings that we have. So we want to salvage that wood, and then we're going to, again, this is very schematic, but we want to take it and reinstall it next to the entry on the south so that can be recaptured, and maybe we'll put some photos or blueprints behind it. We think it can be really powerful. It almost creates this kind of a framework, and that would all be original. We wouldn't do the doors because the doors aren't original, but that woodwork is. So I think that's a really nice touch that we can do, but most all the other doors have all been changed, and there's not a lot of original woodwork left. These are the original 1925 columns that are still there. There's a few of them exposed. This was the original cafeteria, and we have some photos. So those columns are pretty cool, and those were, old growth lumber at the time. We think they probably came from trees not too far away, probably. Anyway, we want to salvage some of those, and we're going to cut them in little slices and do something like this on the wall in the community room, which is going to be one of the focus rooms of the whole school. When people come on a tour, that's going to be one of the first rooms they come in. Come see this beautiful community room that's a flexible meeting space with technology, and then on that wall is going to be slices of those original columns. And so I think it can be really beautiful and powerful. You're going to see the growth rings, from the original trees that were there for 90 plus years. We may not stain them all like that, but we're going to put a plaque there. We're going to tell the quick story about it. It's going to be one of the highlights of the school. It's going to be very beautiful. And then these are a couple quick shots of this. This is the new lobby. This is the connection. You go through there and all of a sudden you're in the common. So that's that connection we're talking about. There's also another one up here. This is that 8-foot grade change where you come in, we have to align. You come up 8 feet, now all of a sudden I'm really on level 1. So we've got this beautiful, 3-story volume space. We're calling this our kind of past, present, future wall. We want it to kind of feel like a yearbook wall. So it's not all old photos. There might be some, but there's some current photos. There's a few past photos. We might even leave some of them blank so they can add future photos. We think this is we want it to be a celebration of the history of Milwaukie, all the cool things that happened a long time ago. And what about something cool that happened a year ago or 5 years ago? And not all athletics. We want to celebrate also, arts and other things as well. So we just feel like that's a really amazing opportunity. We're talking about how to print those and put them on frames and keep it very simple and have it be changeable over time as well. So past, present, future wall. And then as you come up, then we're going to have a main display case. This stair leads you up to the second floor. The community room is over here. I'm just going really quick. So here, this is a physical display case and really the heart of the building. This is really the main lobby. And this is where, we want to have some artifacts. Again, there aren't that many pieces, but we're going to take a few pieces of a few things that we can find. Some pieces of trim, maybe a piece of the old chalkboard. Maybe we'll salvage the 1925 sign, even though it's not original. We want to put some of those in there, but then some of it would be maybe the old blueprints, some pictures of when John F. Kennedy came to the school before he was president in 1960. He came to Milwaukie. We have some photos of that amazing visit. So we'd like to put the fire of the gym in 1961. There's a windstorm. I mean, there's all these amazing cool photos that we'd love to, to put and display. And there'll also be a digital component to this too, where images will live on a website. We might have a TV monitor here, we might not. Anyway, we're still developing what actually goes in here, but this will be in a super prominent location. We really want to honor the old building. We think there's so many great things that we can show, and that will be, we're not hiding that away. We're just putting it right in the very front of the school. And then these are just a few more images just to kind of get a feel of the space. We're creating all sorts of connecting the levels with these open stairways. This is from basically level 1 up to level 2. Now you're up on level 2. This is the library media center. There's another stair that leads you up to level 3. We're providing all sorts of different access points for the students to get between the levels, and very open hallways and corridors. Open and friendly and inviting. Then now you're up on 3rd floor looking back down. The media center, you can see in the media center from the 3rd floor. It's a very tight, efficient building, and that is it. So that's about 8 months of design work into a very quick. There's so much to talk about. That's a very brief overview.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. I think we've been to several meetings together now, and the consistent line you didn't deliver tonight is that this is your only project, and it has been.
This is my only project, yes. This is all I'm working on. I will only work on this right now and until it's done.
No, so I think a lot of passion and design have gone, and thought have gone into this design, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I live in the Beaverton School District myself, and there are 7 new schools being constructed there right now, and there's just nothing more exciting than seeing them come up, seeing the cranes go in, and then seeing them be finished, because each one is beautiful in its own unique way. And I'm excited for Milwaukie to experience this as well. So in concluding our presentation to you tonight, you'll be happy to know, we're happy to know, that the district accepts all proposed findings by staff and conditions of approval. The district respectfully requests that the Planning Commission approve this application and allow us to start moving towards construction. We're here to answer any questions you may have.
I just realized if you'd like, we could show the quick video.
Yeah, let's do
Fly
that.
through? Okay.
Can't resist.
Should we do it? Okay,
Yeah,
guys,
let's
so
do it.
here we go. So please don't look at all the colors. Oh, shoot. Brett, how do I share the screen?
Pause it for a second.
Ooh, okay, sorry. Let's go back. We'll pause. Sorry, I see it, but you guys probably can't. How about how do we share the screen? Go back to...
Escape maybe and see if that gets us off the...
It was...
Yeah, hit the escape button down there. Let's
Okay.
see.
Shoot. Oh, maybe I just had... Go now?
I don't think so.
Oh, that looked promising.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Hey, thank you. Can we go back to the beginning?
Yeah.
There we go.
I'll let you.
Okay. Sorry about that. I thought it was already, okay.
Know what I did.
So here's that, where the softball field is. So we're starting here kind of the east end. That's the new parking lot. We're swinging around to the south. Don't look at those buildings across the street. Tennis courts, there's Willard. Okay, here's a kind of a long range. Now we're coming in on Willard. Tennis courts are still there, even though we know they're going to go away. And there's that new parking lot. Here's the bus lane on Willard. There's our new 3-story. There's the south wing. Here's that new student entrance on the side. Here's that pathway that connects around our improved front parking lot area. There's the central new plaza. We're going to kick this around. We're going to we're saving those 2 of the largest mature trees in the front. Here's the new front door to the school. There's the renovated commons. It's going to be amazing. We're coming closer. That's our main entry plaza, and we're zooming over the top. Academic courtyard is in here. We've got all these classrooms, natural light. You're looking at this amazing, beautiful courtyard, swinging all the way around. It's not going to have red brick on the side. There's no red brick on this campus, which is amazing. For most schools have kind of that traditional red brick, old schools, but Milwaukie doesn't. There's no brick on that old building. People think there's brick. There is no brick. It's concrete on the outside. So that's it. That was very loose, but it's pretty cool. Our engineers did that for us, so.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for the applicant?
I have a question. I live very close to this site, and I kind of have a vested interest in that parking lot that's going in on the softball field.
Okay.
And so I'm curious about the landscape plan and the that buffer that's gonna go in. So there's like some ivy, some invasive stuff there that I guess you guys are gonna take out. Curious what's gonna go in there.
So
Is it the whole softball field? That whole thing?
Yes, yes.
yeah, the whole softball field will be coming out, being replaced by a parking lot. And the way the conditions are structured at the moment, we're going to have to remove any invasives from our property on that eastern side. And the funny thing about bond projects is once the bond passes, then you got to submit and you got to start showing progress. And so we didn't have a fully developed landscape plan by this point. So by the time we submitted, but we will before we go into construction. And the city has buffering and screening standards that require a certain number of shrubs along parking lots. They also require a certain number of trees and then ground cover as well. So you're going to have a fairly significant vegetative cover along that eastern and along the northern property or parking lot boundaries. Those have been specifically required to buffer parking lots. I mean, I suppose I wish we had a bit more of a graphic in the plans to show you what's coming, but I can assure you we're going to meet all of the city's standards in terms of density.
Is there going to be additional screening for, so along the very east side where there's going to be, it looks like there's going to be.
Where is my mouse here?
I guess I didn't.
Oops.
There, it looks like there's going to be parking along that edge. So are you going to is it going to just be landscaping along that eastern edge? Or
this edge here?
Yeah.
So there is that easement that we're going to improve, get that evasive material out of there. So edge, we will have landscape buffer all along that eastern edge of that parking lot.
Okay, so it's just going to be vegetative.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just from looking at the overall grading and site plans, it looks like we're going to have to be cutting into that a bit too. So there might be another like 3-foot drop to get down to the parking, which will provide a little more vertical separation between the houses over there as well as the new parking surface. And then, as I mentioned, we'll landscape it as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you speak a little bit to where the new trash enclosure is proposed?
I can, and I'm sorry about that. I don't know why it's, let me go the other way. We just do not have a full, our civil drawings and landscape drawings fully developed. I'm trying to get sorry, Brett, how do I do this? trying to get my mouse to come. There we go. So I guess it does show up very briefly over here. We have a lot of challenges. I'll just say that right now, that dumpster, if you were to go there, it just sits next to the school on asphalt or concrete. There's no screening. Truck can come just right through there. Students are walking all around. I mean, it's not safe. It's not attractive. The challenge we have, it's not just a little dumpster, it's a very big dumpster, and a large truck has to come right and actually pick it up, and they actually haul it off to go dump it and then bring it back. And that truck has all sorts of turning radiuses and requirements. And we have all this edge of this building has fire lane access, all our electrical equipment. PGE needs access to all this stuff here that we're working with. Fire lane has to come, a truck has to be able to come into that parking lot and come into this part of the building. So all of a sudden, our areas to put this enclosure for a large dumpster and the recycling station are very limited. And so when we studied it, we said, you know what, yeah, it'd be nice to have it a little bit closer, but it really kind of only fits right in that corner. And so I can get into more technical stuff, but there's really not a lot of locations. And we're going to create an enclosure around it that's nice. It's going to be like concrete block that'll match the building. It'll have nice metal painted, gates. I mean, it's going to meet all the current codes. We're going to landscape all around it. I mean, we're going to do all we can to make that nice, as nice as possible.
So will the truck just come in through the parking lot then?
Yeah, so the truck, there's one driveway that aligns with 25th. The truck will be able to come in like this, and I think then they'll come around and back up. They grab it, and then they can come out, and then they'll do the reverse when they drop it back off.
And I'll add that staff has keyed into this issue as well. I mean, I think they raised it as part of their presentation. They've also conditioned us through condition 1C sub 1, which says that for finding 8.E sub 2, provide a detailed final landscaping plan that provides more information regarding plant material, particularly for landscaping areas related to new and modified parking areas. I think they're focused on this as they go through their final review as well.
Yes.
What's on the other side of the property line there? Is that multifamily housing?
On the south east side?
The east side of that proposed parking lot?
That's multifamily housing, yes.
Can you show on this image where the bicycle parking is?
Yes. Oh, get my mouse back. Bicycle parking is right. I think it's right there, actually. So Performing Arts Commons, it's right there off that corner.
So the bicycles will access, which way will they access the parking, the bike parking?
They can go either way. I mean, it's just part of this plaza, the plaza that's in front of the Performing Arts that continues north. All that's concrete and landscaping, and then there's a nice bike parking zone that's already there. And what's kind of nice is you kind of get to it from north-south. This is all just very accessible space.
On the bike parking, we did chat with staff about this. I think it was a 2007 or 2009 modification to the conditional use permit that added those covered bike parking spaces. I think they're currently far in excess of what the minimum standard would have been. So much like some of the other issues that we weren't really touching them, so we just left them be. They're not in conformance, or maybe in some cases exceed what's required, but we left that particular part of the campus alone.
Can you talk about the shared parking agreements that you have with the churches?
Andrew?
I'll do my best without bringing the district into this discussion, but there are two churches, and churches and schools go together like peas and carrots, because churches are active on Sundays, sometimes on Saturdays. Schools are active during the week, so you end up with these vast expanses of parking areas that can be used by both uses. I believe there are 90 spaces in the northern lot at the Catholic Church, and then another, was it 50 or 60 in the southeastern lot? I think this was touched touched upon in previous applications, previous community service use modifications, because the urban nature of this campus prevents us from locating a lot of parking on the campus. And I think in previous applications, the fact that they were so far below the minimum required standard necessitated action, which led to the parking agreements which are in place today. Does that answer your question, or was there more that you wanted to know?
No, I mean, who's allowed to park there? What time? I mean, is it just during school hours? Is it for athletic events? Those kinds of details.
I don't have a copy of the actual agreement, so I can't speak to the nature of it. But David, do you know more about it than I?
Good evening, David Hobbs, Capital Projects Director with the district. Yeah, it is available for evening and athletic events as well. It's primarily during the week, but it does go into the hours that allow for event parking to happen, because again, it's the same issue whether it's daytime or evening in terms of the amount of parking that's available for those events.
Mm-hmm. And do you anticipate that those agreements that you will renew those agreements?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Other questions? Do you have any comments on the transportation demand management and ideas on how that will be monitored?
Well, I think with the newly configured access to the site and with the light rail having gone in between the last transportation demand study and the one that we will embark upon as part of the conditions of approval, I think it's going to be very interesting to see what the results say. And again, I think with staff agreeing to monitor and sort of check in, we're just excited to see what comes of that. But it's a new ballpark now with the light rail there in place. So this school has opportunities that not a lot of other schools have. So we're excited to see the results.
And can you talk a little bit about the carpool, vanpool, why you feel that that's not necessary? Just elaborate on that.
Right. I think the standard that we were requesting the variance for was to make 10% of the existing parking carpool and vanpool striped or signed. And because of the nature of this campus, and students do arrive by car, a lot of them already arrive in multiple students to a car and use sort of informal car sharing arrangements. It just didn't seem like a necessity to the district at the time that we made the application.
Additional questions, anyone?
Additional questions?
No? Okay. Okay, great. Well, thank you for your presentation, and I will speak for myself and say I'm very excited. I have a 10th grader that will be in Mod City for the next 2 years, but he is still thrilled about all of this happening, and he's very proud, and it is such a important part of our downtown community, having this urban high school. So it looks beautiful what you've proposed, and appreciate all of your work on this so far. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Other testimony in support of the application. Do we have anyone who wishes to speak in support of the application? I have 3 comment cards. Brett, do you have any over there? I have 2 neutral and 1 that is not indicated if it is in support or opposition. So how about we start with the neutral testimony? I don't know if this is the right order, but we'll go ahead. Gary Klein, please come up and state your name and address for the record.
Gary Klein, 10795 Southeast Riverway Lane, Milwaukie, Oregon. I just wanted to mention one thing that I'm going to try and stay neutral on this. Your clock, it's got Pacific Standard Time on it. The first thing I want to mention, because I'm going to be neutral on it, is Northwest, as you mentioned earlier, Northwest Housing Authority is doing quite an extensive work of about a 1.5 year project, and this one's a little longer. Not only that, but in the 6-block area of the high school, we've got so much going on and activity, and I don't have to tell you because you hear and see about it all the time, but between that and the library, and we've got a bridge going in down here, and then the park is supposed to be done by 20. There's just tons going on, and then Bernard's Garage and all of this. So the one thing I wanted to mention is you said this is mostly R2, and here we are, and it's nice to hear that people live very close to it, so you have those concerns too. So just remember that in whatever's going on, and trying to work with the community that lives all around it. The other thing about the historic site is, I can understand needing to drop it in order to do all the work, but it sounds pretty much like there's been a lot of work done in the past on this historic site. So as they mentioned, there's very little, if anything, left. So I appreciate they're doing all they can, and I look forward to them following through with what they said in doing that. I have a concern here because I moved to Milwaukie in 1948, was away in the service, and didn't live here for a while in between, but I've spent most of my life in Milwaukie more than any other place, more than all the other places, I'll put it that way. And I graduated from Milwaukie High School, so I have a double concern. So I like what's going on, and please keep your eye on it, and let's see it happen. Thank you.
Sir, 1 minute. So, sorry, I was just going to allow if anybody had any questions for you. I have a question for you. So in thinking about all of the activity that's happening in the area, what are your main safety concerns or other concerns that you have that we should be keeping an eye on, as you suggested to us?
I wish somehow things could be spread out more, that they weren't all happening as one. So that's probably the biggest issue, because it's going to, I'm on the Milwaukie Historic, I go to that, and I'm on the Land Use Committee too. So the biggest concern is safety, and safety comes down to a lot of things. I include noise, dust, all that stuff with it, besides the activity and the vehicles and all of that. I'm trying to stay neutral on it, but you just keep your eye on it, please, to keep it so it's still a livable city while all this is going on.
Can I answer on this?
And I know you have a new person just hired on that watches all this, Leah, and she's come to us several times.
Excellent. That's just what I want.
I know.
I don't know that anybody else knows that, though.
Yeah.
We have our downtown development manager, Layla Aman, basically has the role of convening all the project managers for the city downtown projects once every 2 weeks to get together to make sure that we're coordinating, because there are so many different projects down there. So we are doing, extra work to just try to make sure that we don't have everything colliding.
It needs to be that way. I appreciate you mentioning it, and I already knew it. But I'm just pointing out to them that there's a lot going on.
Sure is. Yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ray Bryan, also neutral.
Ray Bryan, 11416 Southeast 27th Avenue. I'm the chair of the Historic Milwaukie Neighborhood Association. I first wanted to thank the school district. They've been awesome to work with, and the reason that tennis court parking lot isn't part of this application is because there was an issue, and they were just really great about putting it aside, not to hold this back, and working that out. If I had one little bit of improvement, the application that we made comments on was different than the one you got. So if you read my comments and you look at page 33, it doesn't make any sense. In 136, after we made our comments, they revised it. They added the stormwater plan, which was one thing that we asked for. But then the pages changed, and there's no indication of what was added or moved around or whatever. But so anyway, that might make sense why what we wrote doesn't really make sense in there, is because it had changed. A lot of what we asked for has been included in the staff report, and I'm really thankful for that. There is a piece that I'm not sure of, and maybe I should be on to the questions instead of the neutral, but I thought in this that Alex did, that there's something about dedicating right-of-way to Lake Road, and I'm not sure if I saw something about making it like a right-of-way for a left-hand turn lane. Basically, excuse me, I'm hoping that we don't do anything to impact those trees down there, even if the sidewalk had to be narrower or meandering. And I know that Lake Road is designated an arterial, and I'm trying to get that changed, at least for the western end of it. We don't really, anybody that I know doesn't really want that left-hand turn lane that's like up there by the Rao Middle School to come down into the lower end of Lake Road and just expand it like that. And I understand that because it's on the books that way and the TSP and all of that stuff, but if there's any way that we can just minimize the impacts and perhaps maybe not make the road that wide, that would be great. The second question I had, with the sidewalk, and Sherry might know more about this, that's going to extend up to Willard. That apartment complex kind of uses that area for parking, and I have no idea where the sidewalk will be. I mean, it's, where the edge of Willard is, and if the sidewalk will be out enough that there's going to be plenty of parking for them, or is that sidewalk going to displace like several parking places in those apartments? And so I would just like, the engineering department to work with them and not have to push a bunch more people out on the street because they can't access the parking. The garbage and recycling, it turns out I was imagining more the garbage trucks that come to the other schools, usually at like 4:30 or 6 in the morning. And this sounds like maybe a lot less impact, especially if it's big enough. It doesn't have to be done weekly or twice a week or whatever. But the noise and the time of the noise is there are a lot of people that live there. And that was why we flagged that one. Then finally, the things that we were hoping for that weren't in the recommendations from the staff, crosswalks, the lighted crosswalks on Washington Street at 27th, Lake Road at 27th, and Lake Road down at 23rd. There are so much activity in that area that people whose kids could walk to school, they won't let them walk to school because they feel it's too dangerous. So if we added some safety things, maybe some of them would let their kids walk to school. That'd be fewer cars, and maybe with a few fewer cars, maybe some more people would let their kids walk to school, and we'd get away from that craziness that happens before and after school. And it kind of seems like never is there a project big enough, like with Northwest Housing or whatever, there's never anything big enough to trigger that or flag that or whatever, but anything we can do to make that happen would be awesome. We'd ask for a good neighbor agreement, which basically just solidifies communication channels. If I read this code right, construction in Milwaukie is 7 days a week. And although I don't think they're going to do that, they've indicated they haven't, but like construction hours and stuff are other things that could be in a good neighbor agreement. And the final thing was having like the emergency preparedness somewhere in the building. I'm hoping that because whatever disaster happens, school could be in session, so maybe they'll have something there already, but I know one neighbor that Hector Campbell, they buried a beacon, so it just has, I think, basic radios and whatever is recommended. This building's going to be the most seismic sound public building in the area, and even if it's not part of this decision, we would look forward to making that happen. So, any questions?
Where was the on-street parking concern that you had for the multifamily? Where they were going to build the sidewalk?
Let's go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to kind of answer your question.
North side of Willard from the edge of the school property up to 27th Avenue.
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's like, well, I don't know if I can show this, but there's a little
looking at it.
portion, yeah. It's private property. We can let the applicant speak to this, but there's already a sidewalk there that kind of terminates at the edge of, the other side of the softball field, and then kind of starts up again halfway through that, the multifamily property. So I would assume they would be improving that, but we can let them speak, because I meant to ask them that
where
too.
those are is actually the edge of the street, then that really looks like it's going to slice off a bunch of the parking. If that's not where the edge of the street is, then
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah, we should let them answer that.
Okay, we can get to that in the rebuttal.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Bryan. Thank you.
Mr. Bryan.
And the final speaker tonight is Andrew Tull.
Oh, that's the applicant.
Oh, that's you. That's the applicant. Oh, okay. So no wonder
Oh, I think we made you do that last.
we made you do this before. I think that it's really required. Okay. All right. So, questions from Planning Commission. Does any member of the Planning Commission have any questions regarding the testimony to this point?
Do we have any ability, is it within proportionality to install a crosswalk across Lake Road, like the last commenter was asking about?
At Lake and 23rd, there is going to be a crossing done by NHA on the east side of the intersection. I think we feel it doesn't need to have two crossings there, but there will be one striped crossing from the east side of 23rd crossing Lake.
Okay, great.
But not a lighted crosswalk.
That is not part of the requirements at this point, no.
Okay. And how does that get triggered, requiring that extra safety measure?
You mean, I guess the question is it the flashing beacons, or do you mean like street light?
Flashing beacons.
The beacons.
Just press the button and
Right.
Actuated flashing beacon.
I'm not sure. I know that was one of our projects that we did on Washington, between the kind of the church parking and the high school. I'm not sure what the trigger is for that. I have to look into that.
Is that the same condition at 27th?
Of what Ray was asking about?
Yeah.
I believe so. We would have to look and see what that trigger is for the beacon versus just a standard crosswalk.
I was just driving around to get us there.
Any other questions about the testimony? I have a question about, is it possible to include good neighbor agreement as a condition?
It has been done before. It wasn't a staff recommendation because the way it was done before and the way I'm not sure this is the only way to do it, but the condition was to, I guess, require the applicant to pursue a good neighbor agreement with the Neighborhood District Association, and that was about as far as the condition went. So the applicant could, make some effort. It was hard to establish, I guess, a clear, you did it, or here's what without trying to define what the agreement should have in it, in the condition, at least the way it was attempted before, it was try to work out a good neighbor agreement. And so in terms of how you measured that someone did that, it didn't seem like it was necessarily set up to be very satisfying. And I think that was part of, at least my way of thinking, why we stayed away from that. Understanding it's a really good suggestion and one that we would encourage the applicant and the NDA to pursue. But as a condition, and maybe you have some ideas about how it might be a little more teethy to be satisfying to the spirit of the suggestion without somehow unnecessarily bogging down the applicant with some unreasonable, we have to achieve X when the idea was to have a conversation and try to, work out some things in a good neighbor way.
And so it is, 7 days, construction's allowed 7 days a week in the code. Is that?
I have to double check that. I know that our CIPs and our public improvement projects, it's Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, and they have to ask, from the engineering director to work on Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
I can look it up.
Okay.
If you want to just hold on a minute.
Yeah, I guess, and just thinking as, testimony was talking about all of the activity going on, and just thinking, boy, that all the activity in all of that area 7 days a week seems like a lot to handle.
Yeah, there are provisions in the code for what the allowable hours are, so we can double check them.
The conditions that were listed in the staff report did say 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. Thank you, guys. And in
I see it now.
the noise section of the nuisance section in the code states 7 p.m. that it's got to be quiet from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, and 5 p.m. between 5 p.m. and 8 a.m. on weekends for air compressors, nail guns, etc. So they're I don't know if those match up. I got to look at that for a minute. I think they do. They don't actually match up.
There may be some construction activities that aren't necessarily noisy. I mean, moving things on and off the site. Or, there are decibel level thresholds for the noise ordinance that wouldn't necessarily mean you couldn't be moving wheelbarrows around or something like that. So they're, I think, designed to generally overlap, but not necessarily be quite so tight that way.
Right.
Okay.
Anyway, the answer to the question was, yeah, you can work on the weekend. Yeah.
Brett, can you or Alex answer the sidewalk question, or should we let the applicants?
I think we can jump in on that. Let me drive over there.
We had spoken with them last week about this specific question. We do understand that where we're asking for the sidewalk to be is really close to the back of those parking stalls.
It would. We wouldn't be able to back over the sidewalk.
Yeah. It would be if you want to go around the corner, actually. Would answer the question better. It'll look the same as the 27th frontage. It'll be a driveway approach, basically all the way across, so that they would be backing over the sidewalk. It's not ideal, but it's an existing situation that we're not going to make a driveway approach in the middle that you can't even get to. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the timing of the garbage trucks?
Yeah, I think that's a fair one to put back to the applicant to ask maybe what their plan is, how the district handles that on other sites, if there are some kind of best practices that they follow for that. I think that's a good question.
Okay, all right. Any other questions before we go to rebuttal from the applicant?
Could you speak to how the transportation demand management plan would end up working as far as coming back to us, and what kind of timing that would be on, and what kind of the city's expectations are for the TDM plan?
Yeah, I think the way we framed it in the conditions was to have the school come back to the Planning Commission within the first month of, I guess, that first school year that they'd be in the new school. In terms of timing. And then what would be in it, I think what we would expect and hope to see would be kind of a comprehensive address of kind of what happens with parking on the site right now. Does the school issue parking permits for students? How many? How do they manage the physical off-street parking spaces? What kinds of encouragement or programs, incentives do they have for students to bike to school, for students to share rides and carpool? It's probably more of a thing maybe with staff or some of the faculty. Are they providing incentives or encouragement, or however it works, passes maybe to use the light rail for people who would be maybe coming to the school from outside the area to work? Looking for some kind of suggestion for, I guess as much as possible, establishing some benchmarks or some measurable things that would make it maybe a little bit easier for the school to point to things and say, hey, here's what we're doing, or here's what we've done, here are our numbers, here's how it's going.
Like mode split targets?
Sorry?
Like mode split targets?
Yes.
Would be an appropriate thing to be part of the TDM plan? Okay.
Yeah.
And so that would be once they move into the new building, once there's occupancy in the final constructed building.
I think that was what we suggested as kind of like the latest that they would come to with maybe just the suspicion that it might be difficult or a little crazy or chaotic to do it before then, but they could certainly develop it in the meantime and come to you much sooner with an idea about how they're working on it. But given that things are going to be in such flux, I guess between now and then, I think our thinking was, well, before we get too far into that new school year, the suggestion would be to have them come back to you with at least the beginnings of that.
It would be nice to see them proactively attack this challenge. The other question I had is about the on-street parking in the surrounding area. I'm sure that some of the on-street parking is probably consumed by people traveling to the school. Would that be part of the TDM plan as far as some kind of a on-street parking utilization report or study, and whether or not that traffic is coming from the school?
That seems fair to consider.
We do a downtown parking study at least once a year and document the parking situation there. And the city right now is doing a parking plan for the downtown. And we have documented parking in the vicinity of the school before, but it's usually not part of our downtown inventory. But I mean, that might be something that we should do, and just trying to track that as well. But I definitely do. We have parking enforcement, so it's not as if somebody can park right near the school all day long. I mean, there's still some time spaces here and there, but I think it's a good point to monitor that. We've got a couple different tools out there.
Yeah, I know there's a parking permit program. That would be one option if it was a challenge, but nobody, I mean, obviously no one's come and asked for that tonight.
They haven't yet, and, I mean, it's certainly an option, but we went through just 2 years ago and kind of revamped that program to revisit it in light of the light rail station opening, because there was definite concern from the neighborhood about what impact that might have, and so I heard a rumor that there has been some discussion about that at the neighborhood association, but I don't know how far they've gone with pursuing that, but we haven't heard a lot of complaints at this point.
Thank you.
Before you go, can you talk about the left turn lane from Lake Road and the TSP reference?
Yeah, so the requirement that we're asking for is basically, this is the start of that cross-section. That includes the turn lane. NHA is dedicating to also accommodate for that eventually. It won't be striped that way because it's only half of the right-of-way that's being dedicated at this point. But at this point, that is the design we have for Lake Road. I'm not sure how the discussion would go. There's been a whole lot of documents and final plans prepared for this cross-section. The only reason it's not built at this point is because we didn't have the money for it. It was a match from other organizations to do what we have done so far for Lake Road to the east. Yeah, I'm not sure how that would be modified at this point.
Can you drive up Lake Road and show that by Rao, the left turn lane?
It's really like a center lane. Is that what you mean? It's a center lane that can be used for turning and usually 4 left turns. Yeah. Yeah, this. Oops.
That was before.
Yeah, we have to stay up here, I guess.
Time machine.
There we go. So yeah, this is more or less how it would look. And what we took the opportunity to do with the improvements before was establish some crosswalks, a few designated turn areas, some median planters.
So having that left turn lane doesn't trigger having a lighted crosswalk? I mean, I'm just...
No, kind of independent of each other.
Okay.
Do you know what, you may have tried to answer this before, what are like the warrants, or how does one determine how to make a regular crosswalk, one that has that kind of lighted signal like we put in on Washington?
I don't know what that warrant is right now. But I do know that the interim measure at this point for Lake Road would just be an overlay. The next project that we do on it will not be that the full reconstruction with that center turn lane. So maybe it would just be a turn lane at the high school, because that isn't more of a major intersection. And the final design might, it could not be, I guess, the center turn lane. I guess our requirement at this point would not, preclude that design, or it would not, throw either one out the window. But the requirement is for that taper to start the turn lane, and then it could just end up being just that one taper, depending on how the final design is.
Okay.
For what's further east of this.
Okay. Anything? Oh.
Well, just maybe like an unrelated kind of random question, but you cannot take a left onto 27th from Willard currently. Is that going to change at all?
No, it's. I think that was based on sight distance, because 27th or Willard has such a kind of a crown to it that you're coming uphill that you can't see to the left. To go along with that, we are requiring that the parking lot to the southwest of the school is a right out only. So we keep whatever traffic that does want to get onto 27th and Lake does go onto Lake first, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. So you're not going to be able to take a left out of that parking lot?
Correct.
Okay.
You would have to go right to get towards Lake, just to keep as much traffic as we can out of that kind of two new parking lots eventually, and buses and everything.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for the explanation. Rebuttal. Does the applicant have any rebuttal or additional comments in response to the public testimony?
Thank you very much for having us back, and would like to thank the folks who came to offer public testimony tonight. We certainly acknowledge and appreciate their thoughts on this matter tonight. I have no direct rebuttal to Mr. Klein's comments. They're very much appreciated. I will start with a couple of comments regarding Mr. Bryant's testimony. On the left turn and changes to the Lake Road intersection, changing a transportation system plan requires a fairly robust analysis. It's not something we're prepared to do as part of this project, but we are willing to work with the city. If at some point a new design is required of us, we'll certainly participate as best we can. With regard to the sidewalk that's been required of us along the southwest corner of the site as it proceeds in front of, I think it's the Dutch apartment complex, we really need a survey of that entire area to determine whether any parking spaces are going to be displaced, but it sure looks like from looking at aerial photographs and the information we do have that we're going to be able to leave their parking lot alone and just run a sidewalk to the south of those parking stalls. So it seems like it's going to be okay, but our surveyors will need to verify that, and then our engineering design will have to verify that. Regarding the noise and timing of garbage pickups, at this point, we've been working with the service provider. We're anticipating 2 pickups per week to serve the school. The way it works with garbage service providers is they tell you when they're coming. Yeah. We're all sort of at their mercy. With regard to crosswalks, I wanted to point out that we do have a condition of approval. I don't have the number pulled up here in front of me. But it requires us to go through and eliminate barriers and remove barriers to ADA crossing around the site. And so we're going to be evaluating many of the crosswalks that are out there now. A lot of them are going to end up being reconstructed to meet current standards, I'm quite sure. That also means they'll probably be restriped. The one trump card that schools have going for them with regard to crosswalks and crossings is they're used frequently during high crossing volume times, and there's 20-mile-per-hour speed restrictions. So at this point, we're not proposing lit crosswalks. With regard to the request for a good neighbor agreement, this is a very high-profile public project. It's being handled by a series of professionals, both internal to the school district, and they've hired the best contractor that they can find, as well as the best project management team that they can find. The public is more than welcome to contact the district directly or any member of the team if they have concerns about noise, dust, safety, or any issues that are happening during construction. As mentioned by Denny, we do have limitations on the hours that can be worked on in the site, and as part of the proactive nature of the district, this week the neighborhoods will be receiving some letters announcing progress towards the school and keeping the folks within the impact area up to date as to what's going on with the project. With regard to the comments about emergency preparedness, at this point, this building does have several resilient features which are being built in, but we're just trying to get it built at this point. If it's used at some point differently down the road, that may be a benefit beyond what the benefit it's providing just to the students. But at this point, we're just trying to get it built.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
So you've heard the word sustainability, which we're still doing sustainable schools, and we green schools, but the newer word is resiliency. And as architects, we're trying to design buildings to be resilient, sustainable, but resilient. So we have a whole list of resilient features that we're trying to, that all have a price to them, but we're trying to include in the new building, and also upgrading the commons. Even though it was built in the 90s, we're going to actually do a little bit of seismic upgrade to that building. We're going to do some stuff in terms of to keep water and power to the building in terms of having emergency generator, but maybe oversizing it a little bit. Water connection so that they can flex a little bit and move, and so we could still have potable water to that site. The kitchen could still operate. It's a whole laundry list of things, including the structure of the building. So pretty cool that we're trying to not say this is an emergency shelter, but we know that it's a big building, has some big spaces in it, and we'd want that, that it could potentially accommodate students having to stay there or community coming. So that's an important thing that is in our budget, those resiliency features. And then I take a step back to the community outreach. So yes, I will be sharing this with the city, but we just have a letter dated March 12th that went out that's going in the mail this week to the neighbors around the high school, as well as Skanska, our contractor, has put a construction notice memo out that was included, as well as a logistics plan. And included on Skanska's construction notice is a brief schedule for Mod City. It also has contact emails and phone numbers for the contractor and our project manager. So this is really cool that this is going out. It's perfect timing, and the neighbors will be getting these, and we will email the PDFs of this to the city. Okay.
Thank you. I believe that covered a lot of the questions that came up. Were there any other unanswered questions or any questions we can answer for you before you enter into deliberation tonight?
The Lake Road trees.
Oh, the Lake Road tree, sorry. We're going to do the best we can and work within the city's flexible standards. The TSP is not a hard and fast requirement that your lanes have to be X amount of feet wide and your sidewalk has to go here. There is quite a bit of flexibility built into that document. So as we go through final design, we've certainly heard the comments about the importance of those trees, and we'll do our best to retain them with the design.
I have a question about the schedule. You can work weekends. Do you plan to?
Great question. If Skanska was here, they'd say, no, they don't want to work weekends because they're going to work their
You don't want to pay overtime, right?
Right. They want to work super hard from Monday to Friday. But I will say there might be a painting contractor that can't come until Saturday morning. They might have to do some work, non-noisy work. Electrician has something going on, and hey, I can only be there Saturday afternoon. So it's that little bit of that flexibility. But I would say early on, they're not going to be working weekends. But when we get closer down to the finish, then it's the mad dash to the finish, and all of a sudden, hey, we've got to put some hours in on Saturday to meet that schedule.
Sure.
So, but they're going to try to stay away from weekends.
Yeah, and then another kind of not necessarily off topic, but do you plan to have a crane on site? Or was that just something that you...
Yes, there will be a crane. The building is tall enough. There's enough steel. I mean, just the steel erection alone is going to take a while. So there will be a crane there to get that superstructure up and the roof on and kind of dried in, and then that crane will go away.
Okay.
So it'll be there for part of the time.
I actually love that. So
yeah, cool. It's going to be a nice crane.
Yeah.
So is my kid.
Okay.
Kind of a construction geek that way.
Cool.
Any additional?
Yeah, I've got one last question, I think. Again, regarding the sidewalk that's going to cut behind the parking spaces and kind of that non-conforming situation, or the vehicle entry situation of those apartments. Since it's effectively functioning as a driveway ramp, how sloped will it be? Will it be within ADA standards? Will it be difficult to navigate if you're in a wheelchair or using a walker? You know what I mean? I'm just curious about how.
Oh, that's a really good question.
Great question.
So the survey will reveal a ton to us in terms of what the existing grade is now. And the way that public improvement or public right-of-way improvements and frontage improvements typically work is if you can get it to ADA grade, you need to do it. And if existing development conditions prevent you from getting all the way to 80 grade, you get as close as you can. Alex, wouldn't you say that's usually the approach? Yeah. Because some roads are built at more than 8.5%. Some are 15%, and they'll never, ever be able to have an ADA acceptable grade there. This one is much closer. So the survey will reveal, again, how close we're going to be able to get, but that's what our civil engineer is going to be shooting for.
So you're familiar with like speed table type designs where there's the flat surface for pedestrians to move across, and then you have your ramps that interface with the roadway or the driveway on the other side. Would that be possible here? I mean, would that be a condition that you might be amenable to? Making sure that there is actually a level surface there. and designing around that, or do you think that's too challenging given the questions about the survey?
I'm hesitant to accept that. I think the civil engineer would question why I did that without a survey, because we really don't know what we're dealing with just yet. Yeah. But I think we can take the comment with us saying, as close as we can possibly get to ADA grades. And I think as you're looking at the aerial that Brett had pulled up earlier, it's not a severe grade there.
Right.
And the fact that we're pulling out asphalt and replacing it with concrete, I would hope that we're going to be able to come fairly close without having to do much tabling.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious if it was workable that way, or if we were just planning on having a sloped sidewalk there, or, and if we can avoid that, that would be ideal.
I mean, obviously he'll have some sort of cross slope, but we'll try to make it a 2.5% or less to match ADA grade requirements.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We appreciate your great information and willingness to cooperate with city staff and the neighborhood. So,
thoughtful design.
I
appreciate that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time tonight.
So much.
Thank you.
Okay. The public testimony portion of this hearing on file CSU-2017-007 and VR-2017-012 is now closed. Is the commission ready for discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Should we take a 5-minute recess?
Sure. Does that sound
possible?
Yes.
fine? Okay.
Thank you.
Do I need to do the gavel? We'll be back in.
I would just say
We'll be
when
back
we
at
come back.
8:35, not 7:35.
Maybe we can get Alex up there.
Now is the commission ready for discussion?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Who wants to start?
Joseph, want to start?
Yeah, I can tell. Okay.
Commissioner Edge?
I'm prepared to approve with the conditions that were recommended by staff. I think it's great. I think they've done a really good job, and I think that most of the concerns that we've heard that we have authority to address will be addressed with the conditions or with the existing code. So I think we're good to approve.
I'll speak. I would agree. I think from the architecture and engineering perspective, you put together a great proposal that's really exciting, really intriguing, and looks to be a great asset for the city. I think that 3 significant points from staff regarding sufficient parking, sufficient buffering, and safe access during construction, it seems like you've given that a lot of thought on all 3 counts, and are working to provide something that is aesthetically very pleasing, is a positive impact on the neighborhood, and works to encourage multimodal transportation while still facilitating vehicular requirements. So I would agree that I would approve the recommended conditions.
I'm prepared to approve as well. I think it's really a well thought out project. I think the applicant and staff have done a really good job collaborating on the project and just making sure all the concerns are heard and met. It sounds like the neighborhood association is on board, so that's good. I don't really have any other concerns.
Oh, I'm excited. I have a future Milwaukie High School student in about 8 years, so not only am I appreciative of the historic context that you are interweaving in the design and throughout, but it's obvious also to be a very forward-thinking, state-of-the-art type of facility and resource. That is everything to me for having a son going through the Clackamas schools, the North Clackamas School District. Thank you for all of the information and considerations you presented to us from answering questions, and I appreciate your neighborhood outreach, working with staff, and I'm also in the same league with my commissioners, prepared to approve with the conditions.
Great. I think that this is a very exciting project. All of the issues, I think, have been addressed, and I think that the team together can hopefully address issues around the trees through design and through cooperation with engineering. I feel confident in the team's ability and willingness to do that, and hopefully help the neighborhood with some of the concerns around that. Yeah. So through the testimony tonight and the presentation and the staff report, I think that all the bases have been covered, and we will be reviewing the transportation demand management plan when that's ready, so we can look forward to continuing to track how this plays out. So we're thankful for everyone's time and effort, and really do appreciate the neighborhood's voice and involvement in working on this as well. So with that, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve with conditions as shown in the staff report.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. The motion passes, and do I need to gavel? Just do the gavel whenever I want.
There
Okay.
is a statement you're supposed to read afterwards, yeah.
Supposed to make a statement.
Oh, in the
okay.
script.
If anyone wishes to appeal this decision to the City Council, you must make an application stating the grounds for your appeal within 15 days of the mailing of the notice of this decision. Please see planning staff for details.
I'd just say, I think thanks to the applicant team, I think they've indirectly agreed to help in the recycling of your binders. I'm not going to make them take them tonight, but I'll take your binders if you don't want to hang on to it, and I've sorted that out with some people in here.
I'm going to keep mine too.
Great,
You'd like
thank
to
you.
leave with me tonight.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Legacy.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is work session items, if
Thank you.
applicable.
We don't have anything for you tonight.
Okay. Other business and updates. Do commissioners or staff have any other business or updates?
Nothing from staff.
Did the
Town Hall?
that's coming,
Yeah, April 4th.
but was the PAC meeting, did you attend
The Comprehensive Plan Advisory Committee meeting was last week, and it was a great meeting. We are continuing to work on the first block of the goal areas, which includes my favorite, and what I'm really becoming very engaged with is Goal 1, citizen involvement. Which I think at the next meeting we'll want to spend a little bit more time talking about Goal 1, getting your feedback on some of the ideas. Things are still really just kind of gelling, and then I think the open house will really help inform more about what that goal looks like and what all the goals look like. So it's Goal 1, it's Goal 9,
Yes,
economic development.
Very
And
good.
then the
Rick, come
growth
on.
management area, which
Here's
is
goal.
14.
Oh, she is.
Wow.
Wow.
Metro needs her.
And then there's, the arts and culture, which is not
doesn't have
currently
a
a
state goal.
goal, but is an area that's being worked on. So we have, our CPAC is divided into groups working on these goals. And so that's really what the town hall is going to be informing us kind of directions for these 4 areas. So hopefully all of you will be able to attend that town hall, and then we'll reserve some time at the next meeting to debrief from that and talk about next steps with some of those concepts.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I mean, the challenge for staff right now is trying to create an interesting set of questions around these 4 topics that are understandable and don't take an hour to explain. Yeah. So it's a real big challenge, I'll let you know. Yeah.
I think Goal 1 is less, really it's, how do you get involved in decision making? So it's easier, I think, to talk about than
Goal 14.
Than Goal 14.
Should we annex? Do we want to annex? It's like why would we want to annex?
Those are tough.
All those questions.
Yeah.
Those are tough.
Those are the questions I like.
Yeah, some people
They're
do.
the good ones for project logic.
Right.
I have a question for Denny.
Yeah.
So most of us opted to get our packets electronically this time.
Yeah.
And so I brought my computer just to kind of scroll through the packet, but my understanding is that we probably shouldn't do that.
Oh, you can do that if you want.
What was raised is, could we be challenged that we were seeking information during a hearing using our computers? Because that would be not in the record.
You could be challenged, but all you would have to do is say no.
Good enough.
So we wouldn't have to surrender our actual electronic device.
As long as you don't, make notes, or if you're just reading it online.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
That's not an issue. If you're
Okay.
emailing or looking at other websites to try to get information, or
Right, that would be,
marking up your exhibit, that could potentially be an issue.
right, but just reviewing material is okay.
Marking up your staff report? You mean, so if they have a staff report and they've taken notes on it?
Well, if that was done during the hearing, for example, and it was something, I'd have to think of an example where somebody might want to see that as a public record. It wouldn't be just highlighting, but maybe if there was some comment about the applicant or something that you wrote in there, but.
Oh, so if I am scrolling through my staff report and I'm, making in there, the applicant speaking, and I'm making notes on, maybe additional materials like I was doing tonight, is that an issue?
Like ask about this or?
Yeah, or key points, like a couple.
Yeah. Technically, somebody could argue that that's a public record, but as a practical matter, it's not required to be retained, and so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it was a communication with someone about it, or if you were passing notes.
Sure.
We were
that's a whole
passing
different
notes,
issue,
that get us
yes.
in trouble.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's more just about replacing the paper with the electronic medium, and so I treat it exactly the same
Just
way.
what you would do.
Yeah, I just don't want to be concerned about losing my brand new MacBook that I'll be broke for the next, year paying for this thing. I just don't want to.
Well, that does get into the issue of using your personal computer for city-related business can be a problem. You definitely want to use either only the city's email server if you have access to that, or create a Gmail account that's solely for your business with the city. I also recommend that people create a separate file on their hard drive, or maybe even partition your hard drive, and put all that information there, because there have been instances when the judge has said, we'll be having your laptop and you'll get it back in a month after we've gone through it.
Okay.
You don't want to run into that situation.
Okay.
Well, those are probably a couple of really good suggestions.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
good to know. Thank you.
I don't know, it sounds to me like city budget
Yeah.
buys us all.
iPads for everyone.
Just
The paper savings.
In a different world, I'm afraid.
I mean, the money you spend on all that postage, sending out those giant packets, probably pay for itself.
Over many years.
Yeah. Possibly over a longer period of time than the lifespan of the electronic device.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other items for discussion?
see you at the spring break recognition dinner.
Yeah, sorry about that. I really didn't think that's when it was, but in fact,
okay.
it was. At least you got your invitation.
Sure, it'll be nice.
And then the forecast for future meetings. We do have a meeting on during spring break as well, the 27th.
You know, if that turns out to be a major, major problem, I think we could carry that item over. We haven't advertised it yet, so let's just, can we poll everyone?
Is anyone going anywhere? Is anyone planning to be out of town on the 27th?
No.
Of March?
Yeah.
All year.
Even you?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere either.
Wow.
Okay.
Maybe you would have been.
Well, then I guess we'll have it.
I gotta work.
You know, hard to say, but I think that should be a really easy meeting, and that was,
Famous last word.
yeah, I know.
Never say that.
That has
Yeah, you
happened to me
would never
before.
say that.
That has happened to me
I think
before.
that Harmony Road will be a clear.
And then April 10th at Leading Library.
Cool.
Okay.
So I have a question for everybody.
You might want to, you're going to move your mic. There you go.
We're out on the air. Can everyone hear me?
Oh, I didn't even adjourn the meeting yet.
No, we're still in it.
No, we're not.
Oh,
There we are.
now we are. So right now, adjacent to the Island Station neighborhood in unincorporated Clackamas County in the Oak Grove area is the county was awarded a Metro 2040 grant for a planning project in that area, and that is getting underway. I've been appointed to the project management team for that grant, and our first meeting is tomorrow. And so I was just wondering if, given the proximity of that effort, although there will be no policy changes that affect land within the city, in the Island Station neighborhood, it's still very close, very, very close. The land, the planning area abuts, the city limits along the Island Station neighborhood. Is there any interest in the commission in receiving any updates about this project as it progresses?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that sounds great. I didn't even know about it, so that's
okay.
Thanks a lot.
Great, yeah.
We'd love it if you could table that once in a while.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Can you give this discussion?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, we're adjourned.
Whoop.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
We're adjourned.